Hi everyone, I'm Gabriel. I'm a recent college grad from 2019 and I'm currently working as an analyst at a boutique consultancy firm. If you're feeling a little lost about the job search process or simply just want to hear from the experiences of a recent regrad, I will in the next 10 minutes or so just talk through some of the strategies that works for me and also how I stay organized throughout the whole process. Before I do begin though, I do want to preface that looking for a job is a large endeavor and it's a process that we measured in months. You'll find yourself tested along a lot of resources such as time, money, and energy, but also along things that are more intangible such as your mental health and your well-being. Unfortunately, a lot of the incentives that are used in academics do not align at all with the job search, in that within the job search market, it's all really about selling yourself, being able to convince someone across the table that your skills, talents, experience, and profile are what they need in the organization. And that skill is not really going to be used until you're looking for a job. The good news is that you will get better at it as you go, because you'll be learning and making mistakes, but there will be growing pains. I mention this because rejection is also a huge part of the job search process. And when you pour yourself out there and have your profile reduced to a single A4 page, it's hard not to take it personally when you get rejected and you wonder, what went wrong? Is that something I said? Was there something missing from my profile? Should I have approached the way I communicated differently? There will be times where, I also have examples of this where something I did led me to lose out on a job offer or interview. But I can tell you that most of the time, when you do get rejected, it'll be for reasons completely beyond your control. Maybe they hired the CEO's nephew, maybe they hired internally, maybe they decide to promote someone else, that they didn't expect to. You never know what's going on, but all you see is a rejection screen. Unfortunately, this just means that it isn't personal at all for them to reject you, but for you, it can be really brutal, especially the first few times you go through this. And I think the only real correct response to this is to be able to do whatever you need to do to get in a better headspace and keep applying. If it's only going to take them a matter of seconds to reject you, you should not give them the pleasure of just dwelling on that. In fact, the biggest test when it comes to looking for a job is really a matter of your own personal resilience. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's begin. So there are basically two ways to go about looking for work. The first is to use sites such as LinkedIn, Indeed, and all these other job recruiting sites, and use the functionalities that they have to send your resume out, to as far wide an audience as you can get. This is like the shotgun method, where you use technology to throw your information and documentation around with the hope that someone will bite. Now, I did have an interview doing this, but I must say that it's not very effective. Mainly because you'll be competing with a lot of people who are doing the exact same thing, looking to just apply to as many jobs as they can in the least amount of time. And because of that, there's very little guarantee that your information will actually be considered. I also think it can be a bit dangerous because when you use this method often, you can be lured into a false sense of security where you may have applied to a lot of jobs, but the odds of them really amounting to anything is very low. Now, the more effective strategy is to network. Now, networking is a very nebulous term that's thrown around pretty often, and I must say up front that networking takes a lot of time and effort, and the rewards can be very unclear at the start. What networking really is making yourself known to a curated audience. By reaching out and interacting with a group of professionals, you can learn what they do, figure out if that's what you want to do for yourself, and learn of the opportunities that they have in their networks. Now, the people you reach out to may not have a job for you, but the situation may change, and you can also have them refer you to other people they know that may be hiring. I found that with the networking that I did in my senior year, I was able to learn about jobs that have not been posted online yet. And that effectively meant that I was able to cut the queue and be the first person to be considered for that posting. Also, when people are able to associate a job application to your face and your impression that you made on them, that really increases your chances of getting interviewed. An example I had of this in my senior year was that I told my thesis advisor that I had an interview with a large finance firm downtown, and he put me in touch with a retired Reedy who used to work for the same company. Now, thanks to the Reedy's referral, I was able to go pretty deep in the interview process, talking directly to some of the most senior people in that firm. Now, I did not get an offer in that case, but I can tell you that pretty much in every single case where I did get an interview, it was through some networking or prep work I did beforehand. The moment your application has references and people vouching for you, the social capital embedded in your job application means that the hiring person cannot simply ignore you. Unlike in the case where you just shoot your resume around and hope it lands somewhere, you will probably at least get an interview based on just positive social connections. Now, to get started with networking, I highly recommend sitting down and brainstorming the industries that you're interested in being in and seeking out people in those spaces. Start with people who are close to you, such as your friends and family, and then expand that to include the REIT community, particularly alumni. Now I've talked a bit about networking, but at some point, in order to convert your networking efforts into a tangible benefit, you'll need to make an ask. And what that means is that you'll be asking the individual connection for something. Whether it is maybe poking the HR person to maybe read your application, or if they are directly in charge of hiring, considering you directly for that role. Now, knowing when to make an ask is crucial, and unfortunately I don't think there's an easy way where I can just give you a rubric to assess when it's the right time to make an ask. It will be based on the rapport you've built with your network and connection. If they have good things to say about you, if they trust you or not. But at some point, you must make it known that you're looking for a job, because otherwise, if people misjudge your intentions, they may just leave you hanging. And you really want to make people know and say, hey, are you able to help me achieve this? Now, you want to phrase your ask tactfully and respectfully. That means, for instance, not outright demanding a job from a recent connection. Now, you may laugh at this, but I've seen it happen. And what this means is that you also need to give your connection the space to decline, because no hiring manager is able to make a hiring decision just based on you meeting them one time or you asking them a few questions. You need to be able to accept that they need to take some time and do whatever thinking they need to consider if having you on a team is what they want. So, having covered some job searching strategies and networking in particular, I want to switch gears and talk a bit about tracking your job search. Now, the job search process is probably going to be long, and in order to keep track of everything that you need to do, whether it's upcoming applications, whether it's following up, I highly recommend adopting a spreadsheet to just track your applications. And in fact, I've actually made one for you right here that you can download. So what you can see here is that we got 6 major headers: application stage, assessment stage, interview stage, offer stage, and contact. And what's happening is as you go from left to right, you're going from colder to hotter towards getting an offer. Application stage, in this section, simply fill out what you have applied to at a very initial stage. Assessments, basically here is if there are any next steps that are immediate, or if there are any job assessments that need to be done, whether it's like IQ tests or like a personality test, fill that in over here. Hopefully you'll be able to get to the interview stage in blue over here, and that's when you start having notes here on, when's the interview? How did it go? Is there a second interview? How did that go? And the offer stage, you can start writing about considerations such as if you receive an offer, the compensation involved, and whether you're interested in working there. Over here from column O to Q, you have your contact. So basically this is to show when your last contact is with that job connection and when you want to next contact them. And status, is a job lead dead? Is it still ongoing, or is the interview coming up? You want to write something here to track a status. And also notice that I've basically laid out the applications by month to just keep track of things. I think it's very important to give yourself credit where it's due, mainly because looking for a job is a job in and of itself. So you don't want to lose track of your own achievements. And by layering out month by month, I hope that maybe when it's April or March, you can say like, hey, I may not have a job now, but look at all the stuff I applied to and what work I did towards getting a job in March, February, and January. Over here, in the bottom here, I have what's called a follow-up tracker. So you can see here contact follow-up notes. So here in column A, you want to assign the same number as what is in the main workbook. And here is just a space for you to add notes on the contact method. Is it LinkedIn? Is it a phone number? Is it email address? And also any follow-up items that you have whenever you had a interaction with a potential lead for a job. You want to really keep track of all this stuff, mainly because it's very easy to get lost in the process. There are heartbreaking situations you want to avoid where you were told of a job and then you missed the application deadline. Or maybe you thought the job application is through, but you're missing one component and now you miss a date. You really want to be on top of your stuff when it comes to dates, because essentially a lot of these recruiters are looking, or job managers are looking for ways to disqualify you, and being tardy or just not having the right materials at the right time it can just mean automatic disqualification, because a lot of that stuff is now done by a robot. So please stay organized, and it's also a very good way to track your progress and sanity through all this. So last of all, I want to do a lightning round of some questions that Shania sent me, and these are questions that she said readers have been asking her. First of all, when to follow up. You should be following up on the same day that you had an interaction with someone. So let's say you met someone for coffee, or a Zoom call now because of COVID. You should be sending them a thank you message maybe that evening. And this, number one, keeps the topic fresh. Like, it's kind of weird getting a thank you note maybe a week after you met someone. And also it keeps the ball rolling, where it'll make you stand out, because not a lot of people actually thank the people they talk to for interviews, and there's also a way to be polite, because a lot of the people you talk to are doing it because they want to help you. And right after that, after you send an initial follow-up, you should look to establish a certain cadence of meetings. Not meetings, but like when you will email them and say like, hey, here's how I'm doing, or are you free to talk about this on this day? Just to make it so that you are constantly looping them on where you are, and that just makes it known to them that you care about their input, and that you're not just talking to them once and that's it. Next, how close to graduation should I start looking for work? I don't think there is a closeness that really matters. You should be looking for work, I think, pretty much around yesterday, I would say. Partially because of what I said. I mean, not partially. I think there's a lot to do to what I said about networking, where you have no idea how the relationships and bonds you build early can play down the line. When I'm working for someone that I met at Reed through a connection, and when I first met him, I have no idea I'll work for him in the future. And he also wasn't hiring. He actually was figuring out what he wanted to do, because he also recently left a company that he was a part of. But hey, like 8 or 7 months after graduation, I pinged him, and it turned out he was starting a new company, and that was how I got involved. You never know where your connections will take you, so I always recommend people to start applying earlier rather than later. Is LinkedIn useful? It is, but I think not so much for looking for work, but more so for looking at following up on people and looking at what they have done. So I use it primarily as a tool for doing my homework when it comes to researching a connection I'm interested in talking to, and because a lot of the work experience and history make good talking points when you meet someone for the first time. People really like talking about themselves, and when you show that you have studied them, that I found to be very effective in keeping a conversation going. You can also still use LinkedIn for the jobs feature, but I will still recommend doing that in conjunction with the networking strategy. After you graduate, is CLBR still available? Yes. Please don't talk to Shania or Alice because you just graduated. CLBR is still available to help you with the job search, and also with a lot of grad school related items. So please don't forget that, and just know that Reed is still supporting you even after you graduate. And that's all I got for all of you today. Thank you for listening to my video, and I know there's a lot to unpack here, and I covered a lot of topics, only really at a surface level over this 10 to 14 minute video. If you're interested in talking to me further, or just want my input on something, please don't hesitate to reach out. I got my LinkedIn and socials over here, so best of luck, and do let me know if this helped you at all. Thank you.